So welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be joined by three amazing ladies. And my name is Iris Fischer. I'm a provider of hypnotherapy sessions. It would be lovely if you could please introduce yourself as well.
I'm Danielle Antonson. I am also a hypnotherapist, and I am in Stevenson, Michigan, in the United States.
Great. My name is Sabina Wolter, and I am a love intimacy coach, and I'm from Poland.
And I'm Renata Gomide, also a hypnotherapist and currently based in Barcelona, Spain.
I'm just saying, it's ladies from all around the world.
Yeah,
it's
all
lovely.
around the world. And the reason why I ask you to join together is because Sabina, you wrote a post on Facebook, and it was so inspiring to read that. And I had a real inner dialogue going on afterwards. If you'd like to just summarize this post.
Well, it was about me expressing how I fear men, boys in men's bodies in particular, because I am a love and intimacy coach, and my pictures are, well, sometimes erotic. They suggested that I may be nude, and this actually makes men very attracted to me. And my audience in 80% are men, whereas I work with women. My message is directed to women who want to connect with their authenticity, with their sexual pleasure, with their femininity. But that also attracts men. And among these men are those who really don't understand the message. And they have some work to do. And sometimes what they ask me to do or what they ask me for is kind of, well, let's just say they really touch my boundaries in a bad way. It's a bad touch. And it happens very often. And this time it was just too much. I received this one nude photo too much. One sex date invitation too much. And they're being very rude often. And I just decide, okay, I cannot just take that energy and make me like feel diminished or whatever. I will just write a post. I will express what I feel. And I will say what I think about that, so that maybe some men open their eyes, and maybe some women will actually open their eyes too and say no to some stuff. I know where this comes from, because many men are just, they have this very they have this little predatory instinct, and that means that whenever they see something, it means that they want to get that, in a sense. Now, I'm not saying that men are predators. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there is this part in their instinct, and when they send nudes, it's like, oh my God, I like you. I want to show you. I want to show how I feel about that, and I'm so excited. And I want you to do that the same, because they think that when they see a body that really makes them so excited, when they show themselves, that will make that other body excited too. That's what they may think and feel. That's not how it works, but that's how it may be. And it's very common among men who actually are emotionally on the level of a 13-year-old boy. And it's very common. And this is what really kind of frightens me sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's very disturbing.
And it's absolutely understandable. And I feel, many women probably reading your post felt the same. So there was a lot of resonance probably going on there. Yeah. What I have to say, you have quite a huge outreach. Therefore, I think the more visibility you have, the more probably you reach people, and probably also the more weird things come in. But you're also touching something that's sort of quite broken in our society, isn't it? The sexuality. So having a healthy approach towards it, having like a healthy approach to your own female side and the male side is not very common. And like you also wrote in your post, like the healthy male and female idols or people we could look up to, they're just not really present. So that was very inspiring reading that. And yeah, maybe if you like to.
Yeah, because we do not have role models very often. The roles that we look up to, these are our parents, our caregivers, and somehow subconsciously, which you all know as hypnotherapists, and we all know that we recreate the same patterns in our current relationships without even knowing that. Very often it's said that, women pick those men who are like their fathers and men pick those women who are like their mothers. But it's kind of more complicated. It's like, who was that parent who was more difficult to love, who you had to be really more careful about, who always had to be right, who was the one who had always the last word? That's the person you will lock your love into, right? Mm-hmm. And in the same time, you want to be loved as that second parent did love you, more unconditionally. So you want to have that mix. And we as adults, we look for that mixture in another person and we project that on another person. And we forget that they have their own histories, their own projections, which is kind of tragic sometimes.
Yeah, true.
When we fall in love, I mean like this Romeo and Juliet kind of love. It's like, I see you and like, wow, I love you. That's not love, actually. That's our patterns. They just fit together so great. And that's where love can come out of if we let it. But the most important thing is that when we fell in love so rapidly, actually, it's very often a red flag. It just means that our patterns are so close to each other that this is the person, because he or she has those qualities that our parent have. Yeah. And we can just dive into that and recreate what we had as a child, hoping for a happy ending, but it never comes. Never.
Yeah, super interesting. Danielle or Renata, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that in terms of, parenthood and how it affects us, or, the patterns, let's say, not the parenthood itself, and also resonating with the post because Iris sent it to me to read, and we probably need to connect after this. And we actually spoke about this a little bit yesterday, right, Iris? And in terms of those, boys in men's bodies and like that kind of reflection that we have as women, just from the very sort of physicality of it. Obviously, a man is, let's say, more strong, and there is that innate threat that somebody needs to, it can be evoked by anything, by situation on the street, and we all had it, there is, I absolutely believe that there is no woman on this planet who hasn't experienced something that caused her fear in terms of coming back from a masculine figure. Mm-hmm. And that lands at that stays for a long time, and that influences us from everything, from relationships and going deeper into sexuality, of course, and like the role plays that we play. And this is like that basic fear that when we overcome and when we kind of, I think, integrate our own masculine side a little bit better, this can become less of a trigger. Exactly. But at the same time, I mean, like online world is just like another level. You can overcome these fears and, have a beautiful relationship with men in your life, and it's all good. But I totally resonate with that online world, which comes as another wave. And because you can't have a normal conversation with those guys or those men and just say, hey, like, stop pushing the boundary or whatever, as you would do in a normal conversation with somebody that is close to you, let's say. that's pointless. You will never do it online. You will not waste your time to do that. But yeah, it's just like how to deal with it. I really don't know.
I was wondering about that all alone in the beginning. It was like, what am I going to do right now? There's a guy, he sends me a nude.
Yeah.
What can I do right now? It's like, how can I actually behave in this way? The only thing that I came up with is I just write a message like, look, I'm a coach, I'm a therapist. I help people. And if there's anything that I can do for you that relates to your emotional states, that I can help you with how you feel with your intimacy in your relation or whatever, I can help you. But this picture is not okay, and it's pushing my boundary. And I hope that you will understand that. I had three guys like that who were pushing me even after such a message, and I just needed to block them.
Yeah.
There was no other way.
That message is like an invitation for them.
Yeah,
it's like,
course.
oh yeah, you know, she's communicating. Let's push a bit more.
One of them actually said, "Oh, you're a difficult one," and I'm like, "Oh my God, who's this person?" And there was no other way, really. I just needed to block him.
Yeah.
Which I followed by my words. I just told him, I'm sorry, again, I'm a therapist and a coach, and you can relate to my previous message. I will block you if you continue. And then I blocked him. I had no other choice.
Yeah, it didn't reach him because he was not he was just not getting the message. There was no maturity in regards to that.
On the other hand,
I mean, the objectification online is massive. You know, it's like they think that, okay, I can see her like online and I can do whatever in my imagination with her, what's possible. But I mean, not realizing that there's a human on the other side having emotions and having boundaries, and you're in a happy relationship, you're married and so on. And I mean, so that's a really tough situation.
Yeah, normally when guys just write to me, they're just curious. It's like, are you married? Are you in a relationship? Are you interested in an affair or something? I know that they're drawn to me. But then I just explain them, yeah, I'm married and there's no space for me for any kind of romance or whatever. I'm ultra monogamic, and I'm very flattered that you look at me. It's very beautiful. I find it as a compliment, and thank you. And I'm not going to waste your time. Look elsewhere. That's what I do. Simple and very easy. And I think frankly, I think it's the most elegant way to do. And they are grateful. I mean, I respect them, and I will never say something like, oh, just fuck off or something. I would never say something like that, because I also have a human being. Maybe sometimes they just don't know. And on the other hand, I see also from my male clients, which is very interesting, they feel how they are objectified by women.
That's so interesting.
And it's very even more aggressive sometimes, because we women, we are not taught boundaries. No boundaries at all.
And it's like learning a new language, right? When you come to learn boundaries.
And it's like, because we don't know who we are, and boundaries are basically like, we know who we are, how we feel, how we express ourselves, and how we react to stuff, and how we communicate about that, and we just don't know. And I think that the most important lesson for women today is know your boundaries and express them. And it doesn't mean attack people like, you're pushing me, or whatever. It's like, no, here's a no. And here, this is a space where you and I, that can be us. Here, we can be us. Right here. There's an open door. That's a boundary too. It's in a healthy way. But I'm very curious about your opinions, because you also work with women. And how is it about, how does it look from your perspectives?
For me, that was okay. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Boundaries, something that, like you said, nobody teaches us, or actually what we learn is how not to have boundaries, how, you know, accept things that are not okay as okay, and I think it's not even in this particular lifetime. It's something that comes with through the generations. But what I also, when I work with my clients, like, I think very important to start with, and this is something that somebody asked me first a long time ago, and I didn't have an answer. When it's like, okay, but like, what do you actually want? What do you want in your relationship? And if it's not there, what's then? And that was like a really big opening for me. It's like, nobody have ever asked me that, and I don't have a clue what I want in my relationship at that time. It's just one of those situations where you just like go with the flow, let's see what happens. It's like, okay, exactly, right? Because then it's like all these things, like resentment, not considered, and blah blah. But like, where is your voice? Are you actually saying what you want, what you need? It's like, oh, okay. So that was like my sort of personal journey into it, and I think I really took it into my practice, because what I notice with a lot of women, they, as me back then, don't know what they want, or they have some sort of fantasy around it, but it's not really tangible. It's like that kind of idea. When this happens in my relationship, then I'm going to be happy. And if it doesn't happen, then what? Well, then, and then it's blank. It's like, then what?
I'll tell you what, then they wait. It's just waiting.
It's waiting, it's more of investing. And again, it's like not showing that boundaries. Like, there are, I completely don't agree with this idea of like, have no expectations, this relationship, just let it flourish, and let's just have this, and let's see where it takes us. I think it's healthy to have healthy expectations in a relationship, and this needs to be in place, because otherwise, like, where are you basing your, even, how do you measure your reality? What's happening in that relationship if you are just sort of floating in it, and both of you floating in it, or then in any way there is one person who will take control and will sort of lead, and whether you follow or whether you participate, it's very two different things. So yeah, co-creating rather than going with the flow, I think is something that I feel more of us needs to learn, and actually not just to learn about it, but implement it and take that part of responsibility into a relationship as well.
That's super important.
And verbalizing it clearly.
It's practice, it's like everything that needs to sort of be implemented in me first.
I remember, I've been in many relationships before my marriage, and they all kind of really fell apart so dramatically, and it's very often it was more my fault.
I will raise my hand to that.
I was really mean to those guys, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I've met my then future husband, I was like, oh, I love this guy, but I see that what I feel and what I'm starting to think about gets kind of dangerously to the level of my own patterns. I would behave very, very similarly to those last relationships that I had. So I decided to actually talk with all of my exes. And it was a brave thing to do. And I was like, hey, look, I know I was a-hole, but there's this guy. I love him. And I want you to tell me, what did I do wrong? What wasn't I doing? Tell me what would you make better if we were still together? And what was very interesting, in all of those conversations, I heard one sentence repeatedly. You didn't know what you want, and I didn't know how to provide that. And I asked you what you wanted, and you never knew. And I was stuck by that. And I was like, that's exactly what you said, Renata. And thank you for that. We women, we don't ask these brave, meaningful questions. What do I want? What is what I really desire? How can I make this happen? How can I share that vision with my partner? Does he have a similar vision? How can we build that? Do we want to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Super
And this
important.
is, yeah, I mean, and I think that not knowing what you want actually also comes from that same soup that, like affects us, right? And whether it is from the upbringing or that just the role of a girl, of a woman, and again, not having boundaries, like how many times, I don't know, like my parents never asked me what I want. Like it's whether you're given something or whatever, that's how happened to me. But like when somebody, like you said, somebody asks you, what do you want? It was just like blank, I went into some kind of trance because I was like, I don't know how to answer this question, and that the journey started. It's like, damn, I never even asked myself about it, and that's quite a journey. Like I'm still on that journey. Like it's constantly, because as relationship evolves and changes and everything, life happens.
Yeah,
kind of needs to come back to it, right? And kind of question again, because things change, and maybe what I wanted then is no longer relevant, and right now the needs have changed, and like how can you sort of move on together in terms of that. And I'm sure when it comes to sexual life, like there are phases that are going on in a relationship, and that question is also very important for both partners as relationship progresses. So yeah, getting to know ourselves, right? What do we want, and how can we fulfill it together in a union with partner?
I think that's the most important thing before you go into a relationship. Get to know who you are and what you want, and sometimes that's I know for myself. I was functioning on my dad's beliefs, and they were stupid. They were absolutely stupid. They set me up for failure at every single turn. And I was raised, where if you did something wrong, you got slapped, you got a spanking, you got the belt. So love to me was, okay, when you're doing something wrong, I'm going to punish you and discipline you, but I love you. So I went into really abusive relationships, and I just thought, well, okay, well, I'll just change what I'm doing, because obviously I'm doing something wrong because I'm being disciplined and punished. And so I was never taught to what I wanted. That was I was even told that what I want doesn't matter, and that because I was a child. So I never had an opinion. My opinion, I knew, never mattered. I didn't know, like I was also taught too, like a man will just know when you're the one, when the one comes. So whenever somebody would pay attention to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the one, and I felt so special because this was going to be the person that fixes all of my emotional emptiness. That person is meant for me to fulfill me and to be my other half, and it was just so stupid and archaic. And I mean, when the relationship fell apart, it got so abusive that I ended up in a women's shelter. And still, like, I felt like it was my fault, like I needed to change something within me to make this work. And because I couldn't keep this relationship, that I was failing at every turn, and it caused me to deny myself and to I started drinking. I was partying all the time. I ended up, drugged and raped. I ended up, it was just terrible things happened to me because I didn't value myself. I didn't have any value. I was never taught what that is. I didn't think that I was lovable just by myself. And, I put myself in places where these people that I surrounded myself with made my beliefs come true. I believed I wasn't lovable, and I surrounded myself with all the people on the planet that made that belief come true. And I really ended up hurting myself more and more and more. And when you start doing the self-work, I mean, Iris has been a main staple in my journey. She and she's helped me so much to realize that, oh my gosh, like I don't have to believe my father's beliefs anymore. And his intentions weren't that I get hurt and have this terrible, experience, but yeah, you have to figure out what you want, and you have to give yourself permission to find new beliefs and to allow yourself to become whoever you are. I also found that throughout my dating journey that I had found being a woman the most terrifying thing ever. So I denied all my feminine aspects, and I became really masculine. I became very bossy. I always had like masculine jobs. I always had to prove myself that I was strong enough and I wouldn't get hurt. And yeah, I finally, taken down those walls and accepted myself as this woman. And it's opened up so many things to me. And now I attract, people into my life that see me as that, and they see themselves as that. And my marriage is improved because I'm finally saying, actually I like this, or I want this. I had no clue who I was. So it's very important to figure out who you are and to get rid of these limiting beliefs that you carry.
My God, your story is so it so resonates with me. I see my past self in you, like really.
When Iris sent me the message, she's like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, actually, it just reminds me of my old self. Being afraid of men and being afraid of because I've been overpowered. I've been forced to obey. I've been forced to submit. Also, like in America, we have a lot of like religious garbage that they twist it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, you're mine. So now you have to submit. You have to do this because the Bible says this, and it's such a terrible way to treat people. To treat each other. Oh, also, like in America, I don't know how it is where you guys are, but we have a lot of divorced parents. We have a lot of single moms. We have a lot of single fathers, and the child is split between houses. Both parents are working. There's no longer that example of how to be, a strong feminine and a strong masculine. It's absent. So, kids are left to kind of entertain themselves and to kind of grow up by themselves without this example. And kids don't listen to what you say. They see what you do. So if the example isn't there, we also have huge drug and alcohol addiction issues here. So, if a parent is checked out because they're addicted to something, the child is no longer receiving that good, healthy example of how, you should behave. There's just nobody to demonstrate that positive energy. And I think that because of this, men and women, or boys and girls, they become unbalanced and selfish, entitled, immature adult children, mm-hmm. And it's terrible. And also, I think someone had said too, there are a lot of bitter men that have been hurt by women, because there are, just as many unbalanced, selfish, entitled women as there are men, because they didn't have the example, and they're mad, they're going to get them before they get you, so it's if we heal our own traumas, we can really change the world, really change everything about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What I
absolutely.
see, and yeah, what I sometimes observe among women, especially young women, 20, 30, around that, is that they felt objectified in their childhood in some way. They were like praised for, oh, you're so pretty, oh, you're the pretty one. And they somehow get conditioned that if I look in a certain way, I'll be loved.
Mhm.
It's those
And
rigid gender roles, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's so rigid and so dogmatic, you know, like you can be a woman and you have to be like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but it's very similar like with men. I mean, maybe it's a bit less rigid, but quite similar. So there are the boxes, but there's no soul inside, you know.
Mhm.
There's no connection to what am I? How does it feel to be feminine or female? Or how does the male energy actually feel like? It's just like an outer surface portrayal of what it's meant to be, how we should behave.
This is such a it's such a like wide topic to explore. We could talk for hours about that, I think. You know, it's not like it's men's fault that sometimes women are objectified. I wouldn't say that it's women's fault that women are objectified. I think it's our we all are responsible for what's going on. I think that if we all just pay attention to what's going on, just use our voices and talk about it, maybe we can wake up some people. Maybe
Yeah.
they will wake up some other people.
You know, I would also like to say I have a lot of clients that have been sexually abused by adults as children, and that really causes so much damage to where a lot of them they become over sexualized because that's the version of love that they've been taught. Others, you know, shut down completely and you know, don't ever experience, you know, sex in a healthy way. And then there are others that a lot of them actually go on to perpetrate others because they want that power back. They want that control back over their lives. And it and there's also people who are just void of empathy. So I mean, really being aware of all the different types of people and knowing like, okay, for example, when you had set a boundary with that one man and he just kept on, you know, then he needs to be blocked because he's not respecting your boundaries, and until he gets his poop in a group, you know, he's not gonna be allowed to talk with you. And but other ones, you know, you've been very appropriate. You know, you've said exactly what you want, and I think that's a really good way to handle this. And you're not rude, and they respect that boundary. But I think just understanding that it's okay to say, hey, this isn't okay, and you need to respect that, and then and going on from there. But just being aware of the different types of people, and that not everybody will respect you ever.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Not everybody will respect you. It doesn't mean that you should not be respectful towards others.
Yes.
But if they show something like that to you, you are not like, you don't have to talk with them.
Right.
Okay, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but I don't have to like stay in connection with you. So it's normal, and that's it. What's really important is that sometimes these people, men and women, actually, sometimes these people, they are just in a really wide spectrum of narcissism.
Yep.
And they actually, what they need to kind of heal, to fall into thinking about what they do, who they are, who other towards others. Sometimes what they need, I think very often what they need is that they need to be left alone. They need to be really left alone so that they can feel themselves. And there will be no one to help them for that moment. They will then understand, oh, it's mine. It's my actually. It's my energy that I put out, and this is what comes back to me. I mean,
you know, it's interesting that you say about like the spectrum of narcissism, because I fell into that, you know,
Me too.
all the yes. And but I I couldn't see that I was the problem. And I did the same thing as you did. I finally got to a point where I called all my exes and I said, I'm the problem. I'm the common denominator. What am I doing wrong? But until you're able to view yourself as part of the problem, and a lot of narcissistic people can't do that because it's so scary to be wrong. It's so scary to be the problem. You have to play the victim role, and I played it really well. I mean, I truly was a victim in a lot of senses, but when I wasn't, I still played that, and I used it to manipulate and to get what I wanted.
Of course. Yeah. That's what I very often see in women who I work with some men too. It's like they are very manipulative. And I very often use this term narcissism, but that refers to immaturity, emotional immaturity. And okay, when we come to this world, we all have to be narcissistic. Infants are narcissistic as hell. Everything is about them. But they are okay with that. And it's okay when you're like, I don't know, a few months old. It's not okay if you're 30.
Right.
But and some people just stay in that immaturity, and they are like, this world is about me. And if it's not okay around, it means it's my fault, and I need to fix that, and I need to manipulate other people so that they don't know that I do that, and then I'll be happy because they will be happy, and everybody will be happy. Yep. And when the problem is that when we exclude the other person from the conversation, it's like, I want to do something but so that you don't know that I do it. That's always manipulation. Very often women ask me like, how can I tell him so that he will do something or become someone who I want, and he wouldn't know that? Or even more, I love this question.
Can you hypnotize him?
What can I do about what can I do about myself? How can I change me so that he will change? And I'm like, oh my God, you're not asking me for help or guidance. You're asking me for manipulations technique. Do you know that? And they're like, what are you talking about? Some of those clients I had to drop out.
Yeah. When I realized that I was highly manipulative, and I didn't even realize it, but once I really started looking at myself and realized, oh my gosh, I manipulate all the time, and everybody manipulates, but I mean, I really manipulated, and then I felt that like sense of shame, like, oh my gosh, I felt like such a terrible person because I took my partner's choice away. I went around, the back way and got what I wanted and disrespected his needs and wants. And I've really, it took a lot to change that. And I would catch myself doing it, and, just being honest with yourself and saying, actually, I would like my partner to have a choice, and his opinion does matter to me, and I need to respect that. And I really had to set boundaries for myself, because I realized that I had turned into the perpetrator, and I didn't even realize it.
People, they just don't go to a doctor and diagnose me if I'm a narcissist. They don't ask questions.
They don't. No, because nothing's wrong with them.
Yeah, it's all the outside triggers, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, always. Well. Yeah, it's always someone else's fault.
Everyone is wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can change anything about you as long as you become aware of it. So, when you are triggered by these men or somebody not respecting your boundary, that's an opportunity for you to look inside and say, hey, you know what, this bothers me. What do I need to see in here? What is this part of me needing from me? And try to meet that need and heal that wound inside you. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, this is something that it always hits me back once in a time, because I do have a sexual trauma. And once I healed that, like on the deepest level, I saw the potential in sexuality. Sexuality is so innocent.
Actually, and I'm still struggling with that. Like I was the one that kind of withdrew from everything and was afraid to be intimate. I was so sexually scared. It was stupid. I couldn't even function. So, I'm trying to rebuild that and become comfortable with being sexual, and it's hard for me.
Because it's not easy. The culture is oppressive.
It is very.
And it denies, disowns, and pushes away sexuality as something scary, something taboo, or whatever. And how can we look at that as something that we can actually openly talk about? Once I really dive deep into my own sexuality, I really noticed that it's, first of all, it's innocent. Secondly, it's so potential, so juicy, so there's so much liveliness in that, such a great vigor in it. And you know, people come from that energy. How can it be
like creative energy?
It's a life force energy, and we all come through that energy. And how can it be like taboo? How can it be like ugly or whatever? Ugly is saying that it's ugly. And each time I reach to that level where it's too much from some men or criticizing women, I take that energy and I do something about that. It doesn't touch me per se. It touches that part of me that really felt hurt in the past and is afraid. It touches my inner child, because my inner child would like to be perfect, would like to be loved by everybody. And when I see something like that, it's like, oh my God, that hurts. But then I just think to myself, oh my God, all these haters, all these weird people who think of themselves without even knowing that I'm not lovable. Maybe I don't deserve something good, and I will just push the crap on that chick from internet. I just think about them as, you guys, I love you, because when you leave a comment on my YouTube, my algorithm goes up. Oh my God. Yeah, give me your energy. I'm so blessed. So this is how I try to think. And sometimes it's just too much. And then I just make a bigger post, a bigger video about that. But it's always something like, I take that energy and I kind of filter it and do something creative about that. This is how I deal with that.
I really love that you did that, because it also awakened the thought inside me. I mean, it would be so lovely to have like a sisterhood, you know, like women supporting each other, or I mean, also brotherhood, like creating a supportive network. That's also something that would be so amazing in this society, because very often women are in competition and they are judging each other, they are gossiping about each other. And that's not what's building others up. That's just pulling them down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually very, I wouldn't say that it's masculine energy. I would say that it's a very toxic masculine energy that women come up with when they criticize other women. It's very toxic. And actually what it does, it's going back to us. If I criticize a woman, I criticize myself.
Yeah.
Unintentionally.
Well, yeah, because that woman is a threat to what you don't have or what you are lacking, and you see that, and you feel like if you could take that from her, or beat her down, then she won't be better than you. And it's such a terrible, unbalanced thing to do.
Because I do have workshops for women. It's a very small group so far, but I very often say that if you see a woman and she somehow, you feel jealous about her, take that jealousy and put it into the light side. And from that jealousy, you have inspiration. It's like you as a woman, you have something that I don't feel in myself yet. But if you did it, I can do it. Yep. Because we were both born in the same way, totally vulnerable, without teeth, without even walking, talking, or whatever. So if you could do it, I can do it. You're my inspiration, and I didn't know that because I was jealous.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Thank you for being an example. And I very often say that one woman's success is a success for every woman.
It is.
It's very important for me to remember that, because whenever I see a sister having something done that she really worked on that and she worked hard, it's like, yeah, girl, you did it. If you could do it, I can do it. Millions of us can do it. Our daughters, granddaughters, we do it for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, just to add up to that jealousy, or, the judgment itself, it's, when you look at somebody and you find yourself thinking, or you catch yourself thinking, who the fuck she thinks she is, behaving like that, and like exposing her like that, or, like dressing like that. If you catch that thought, and because I used to have a lot of these thoughts, like judging somebody who would be like, like I give you an example. I lived in Brazil for 3 years, and for me, sort of coming from Northern Europe into Brazil, it's kind of, tits out, everything out, and for me, it was like, wow, it's like that thought, those women are asking for it,
Mm.
and it's like that kind of thing became very big. It's like, how can I think that? But it's real. Like, this is the thought that comes, and obviously, like the situation there, it's very different. Like, women are very, you know, yeah. I mean, you look at TV news, and there is like a naked lady like swinging before the news show up on the telly. It's kind of that kind of energy, and they are everywhere, and the sexualization is very strong, and then of course the sex crimes are very often, and then you have all of that going on, and to experience that kind of contrast was so huge, because like even when I lived in London and like big cities or something like that, I never actually felt in danger. Like, of course, you had situation and you had men or whatever, or you were in some sort of situation where you didn't make sure that you're safe, and nothing ever like major happened to me, even when I was very silly. However, when I lived in Brazil, like that was like a completely different story. It got to the point where it was stressful just to leave the house, just to be out on the street was that stress all the time. It's like men are looking at me, they are saying something to me, they're trying to touch me. It's like this whole situation where, at some point, something happened once on the metro, there was some freak, and I noticed him like doing something in front of this woman who was sitting, like whether he was, touching himself or whatever, but it was like super packed. Lots of people, this lady just sitting on his chair, trying to sort of hide herself, and there's this guy standing in front of her doing something. And everybody's seeing it, and nobody's saying anything, and nobody's doing anything. Like, this was another level. I was like, how on earth this can be happening? It's like that moment where you are like, is this even real? Like, there are all these men around, and they are not telling this guy off, for doing this visible thing. And
that's a powerful story.
yeah, it's just like an instinct came over, and I started screaming. It's like in language that we didn't understand, but it's just like to pay attention. And once I raised my voice and I pointed at it and I said, "You fucker, you get off here," and started screaming, then everybody else started like dragging him out, So somebody needs to initiate it. But I understand from their culture and what they've been through, these women really rarely will say something because it is so evident there, it's everywhere. And they are afraid. They are afraid because if they say something, they might be killed. And this is what my husband said to me, is like, when you are like behaving like this in Sao Paulo, you're crossing streets and whatever, like expecting a car to stop for you on a pedestrian. It's like, yeah, I expect a car to stop when I'm crossing the street on a pedestrian line, Like,
it's normal, right?
That's just normal, It's like, no, but here, like, you can't do that because they have guns. And he said that, and I was like, shit. like that didn't land very well, because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, save all the women on the metro. And yeah, that kind of worked once or twice, but after that, again, I had to censor myself and get more into that culture of like, I just need to make sure that I protect myself and I don't get involved with anything else. So as well, like what that kind of in that kind of culture, when girls are growing up, like how do you get out of that at the
That's a
moment?
great
I really
question.
don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
a great
really don't
question.
know.
Some women that I work with are mothers, and they have daughters, and they're asking like, how can I protect her? What can I say? What can I do? What I usually say to her is what I've learned from Dr. Shefali Tsabari, especially from her book Radical Awakening. I really recommend this book to any woman. And she said that she's from India, one of the highest rape rates in the whole world, and she said,
I think Brazil is somewhere around that as well.
yeah, could be. And she said it's a shame that when a woman is abused, she's ashamed and she doesn't say anything, because she needs her sisters, her mothers, her aunts, older women that she can turn to, and she can look for protection and actually feel that it was not her fault, and to forgive that man who did that, because he didn't know what he was doing. If he really knew what he was doing from his adult perspective, from the whole picture, if he knew, he wouldn't do that. And I think that it's very important to actually talk to our daughters, our sisters, our children, that whenever somebody does something to you, you have to talk about it. You have to talk about it. It's not like just keep it to yourself. Don't take that bullshit. It's bullshit. You have to talk about it. So, and I truly believe that's why I wrote that post. I will talk about it, because I shouldn't feel shamed. Those people should. Like, proposing me such a really nasty stuff, like where he would put his something to which hole in my body. It was nasty. It was just awful. You shouldn't say that to any human being. That was aggressive. And I'm really against that. So I will talk about it. I will.
And I think bringing awareness to that is already shifting it somehow, you know, or giving it a chance to be transformed and changed. And you're reaching others with that.
Yeah, because if we are, you know, censoring ourselves and we sort of live in that shame, this will continue.
Yeah.
Like what we said in the beginning, every woman on this planet had experienced something. And I'm not talking about necessarily some, you know, movement that needs to be created, because I feel that lots of these movements start really well and then they kind of derail themselves in whatever way. And it's just coming really from each and everyone, like really, like you said, whether it's your daughter, whether it's your sister, whether, you know, like just a friend, somebody close, somebody you can trust, and just make it normal to talk about the pain that we all went through. And importantly, if like you guys, like we all are, you know, everybody overcame something huge in some cases, right? And that's why, first of all, we choose to continue doing the work that we are doing. But also, even without that, even without therapy, and even without, you know, doing the work, it's kind of like Iris said, when you bring it up, you give it a chance to be somehow transmuted or alchemized, because it's been up it's no longer hidden. It's right in your face, and you have to deal with it. Otherwise, like I always say, there is always a choice. You can turn around and say, yeah, I get it, but I'm not going to do anything about it. So that's not really getting it. Because if you get it, you have no other choice. You have to do something about it, whether it's coming from you, and that's the only thing and probably the hardest thing that you can do. And if you after you can pass it along and offer somebody else to be seen, to be heard, to be somehow healed, if you can do that, well, then that's the biggest thing that you can gift to the women of this world, in my opinion.
I think that very beautifully, that Esther Perel said very beautifully, that you come to connecting with others, to therapy, rituals, to your friends, to your family, to your mentors, coaches, or whatever. You come with a story, but the job is that you go away with another story, a different story, that you transform it, alchemize it, and it no longer is like pressing you, but you're getting all of these emotions out from that experience, and by this it just becomes wisdom. It's an experience without emotion, and it's wisdom afterwards. And you know more, and thanks to that you can actually talk with your brothers, with your fathers, with your partners, boys, and discuss about that, right? Not in a language that women very often say men are bad. Sometimes I hear from my friends, women who have like little boys, children, it's like, men are bad. How this little boy should feel. I work with men, and they are oppressed. They feel oppressed. They feel they don't deserve women. They don't deserve love because they are not enough. And not enoughness in a man's world is this is a recipe for a tragedy. Like suicides among men and women, the rate is really an advantage for men. It doesn't mean if they're married or not, but single men, they're like the highest rates from suicides. That's for single men, and it tells something. It tells a story. Something is behind that. They don't know where to turn. The only emotion they can show: anger, sexual attraction. That's tragic. I think this is a very tragic story that went to them from their hurt mothers and absent fathers. And it's very important for us that when we see a man who tries to be someone or something, it's like to show them, hey, you're doing it wrong, I'm not saying no to you as a person. I'm saying no to the behavior. You're okay, but your behavior is not. Work on that. This is what I'm trying to do. I don't know how will it land in them, but at least I try.
I think it's good for men to hear your perspective, because it's not an attacking, perspective. It's just, hey, this is not okay, and I need you to behave differently, and there's space for you to do that here, but you're not going to be inappropriate in the meantime, So if men are truly interested in healing their guilt and their shame and their own wounds, they'll see that, and you'll be like that beacon that they can come and learn how to do that. I think it's good to have, men's perspective also, because there are a lot of things that women can learn from men as well. So I think like coming together and hearing each other and seeing what each other needs and wants and desires, and finding some common ground where everybody can have a safe platform to express themselves and heal and help each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying is totally in my experience as well, I don't work with a lot of men, but just from like the personal experience, once we had a conversation with my husband, and it was about this, it was about fear, you know, it's like how women are afraid of men, and you know, I think it was back, we were still living in Brazil back then. But what he said as well is like, sometimes I'm afraid that I'm going to scare someone, and that's not my intention at all. You know, if I'm walking on the street and it's an evening, it's like dark or something like that, and I see a woman in front of me, I kind of, you know, slow down. I kind of like go and leave, you know, a little bit behind so she doesn't feel that I'm following her. So I have to, you know, like, because I don't want to scare her. So it's already that kind of, what you say, you know.
That's a weird toxic thing happening in society.
Isn't it? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so you as a man become afraid of how you're gonna treat, you know, a woman that is obviously, you know, when you know a woman and in a relationship is different, but like I'm just saying, you know, just on the street. And it's kind of, not every man probably thinks like that, I imagine. But that also very intrigued me. It's like, wow, okay, so
Yeah, you're really reaching something very important. It's a very subtle and brutal dance between women and men. Very often when men actually, when they propose something to me, when they want to, I don't know, when they suggest like, ah, you're so beautiful. I mean, wow. I'm sorry, I'm not your husband or something. It's like, I'm just saying to them, I'm writing to them back, thank you. I take that as a compliment. My husband also takes that as a compliment. Period. I'm just saying, I'm like, thank you. I really take that as a compliment. And my husband also. So it's just like, you know, in a very light atmosphere. I do not want to be like aggressive on the other hand to them. I wouldn't say, screw you or something.
yeah.
If they actually find me attractive, great. Because my body is attractive and I know it. And I'm just thanking for that. That's all. If they become brutal, I just need to then make them stop. That's it. But that's very rare. That's very rare. Most of the times, men, they don't know how to approach a woman, not to offend her. And today, a woman can be very easily offended. Very easily. I very often say to my female clients, like, if he says to you, you have a nice ass, is that really an attack if you know him for 6 months already? I don't think so. Like, ask him about his intention. What was he saying? And you'll know. Don't treat him as a perpetrator already. 6 months of you know each other, and he says you have nice ass. That's a compliment for me.
Yeah,
But there's
so
a very,
like,
as I said, it's a very subtle dance here.
it is, and a lot of his influences, and I think someone mentioned before, you know, it's like kids are not growing up with families anymore. They are growing up with TikTok or whatever stuff is on the screen in front of them, and like what
Pornography
kind of
too.
pornography, and you know, OnlyFans, and it's just growing. And it's kind of, you know, if I give you $1, you'll do that mentality, you know. If I say this, if I send you, you know, my dick pic, like you're just gonna like appear in front of my house, you know, like all ready and lubed. And it's like, you know, it's funny just when you have these interactions, but yeah, when it gets to that sort of rude state and people are just like being completely horrible and not just, you know, what I say, silly or insecure or whatever, you know, going on, where you can still have, you know, respect happening. If that's gone, no, you just blocked. Like not even takes that sometimes, you know. It's like I just see a picture arriving, you know, I'm not even gonna download that picture. Like it's just blocked straight away. And I never ever actually opened a dick pic, whether, you know, it was one or not, I don't know, because it's like blurred before you download it. And it's like, if that's a picture, if that's coming from a guy and it's just a picture with like, hey, or whatever, it's like, block. Not gonna waste my time.
Yeah, it's easy on WhatsApp. On Messenger, you just get it.
No, but on Messenger, I think I also managed to blur it somehow. Or I just don't get that on Messenger.
Okay.
Because like there is, I'm talking about my phone, because I think in my settings, like you can, like any image that you get, you can choose to download it before viewing it.
I need to check that. If I didn't have that,
have a look.
It means I've had made so much mistakes. Oh my God. Maybe innocent people suffered because of that.
No, but just have a look, because for me it's like, but again, my niche is not so, it's relationships and all that, but I don't get that much attention. I get probably, more people, whether they are men or women, probably. I don't know. I didn't do the statistics who says it more often, but like just people being, generally rude, kind of, you don't know what you're talking about, shut up, your hair is awful, that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, okay, like this is not worth my energy, not even a blink of my eye, so like just move on. But when the pics come through, nah, not gonna get involved. And it was funny because one day it was like Christmas morning or something, and we're sitting here like having coffee, and then my husband says like, oh, I just got a dick pic into his phone. It's like, damn, you're lucky.
Good morning.
From some, like a friend probably having an after party somewhere, and like acquaintance that he met in some party 10 years ago, like suddenly has a dick pic coming through. I was like, Merry Christmas.
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah, with that, and this is another thing, is like, if they are able to censor all kind of stuff online, why these things aren't, it's probably like a click of a button for the platform to arrange it, like, because they scan whatever you type, they scan whatever you upload or something like that. Like, why aren't they blocking all these dick pics, or
I think because there are a ton of people who want that and who do communicate that way, women and men alike, sending nudes and stuff like that to each other. So I guess how would it know if you're one that
who
wants
likes it or doesn't?
You cannot post that like officially on your Facebook or your
but I mean, like, do it privately, whatever. But
actually, I think that private messages should remain private, even if I wouldn't like anything to be scanned.
Everything is scanned.
I know it is, but
but even on like dating websites and things like that, I worked for one for a while, and every word you write, everything that you put there, every emotion that you share, it is scanned, it is stored, it is made into data, and it is sold to the biggest bidder, So that also one thing that people think, and of course they say that it is for your protection and kind of, everything is for your own good, basically. But I just would be really careful what you put online these days, because all those dick pics are accumulating somewhere, and one day they can come
I hate to stumble on that file.
A file of dick.
The FBI files of dick pics.
What's the conversation about?
I mean, it's like,
where is it going?
who is getting those, and what's going on, and it's like, the whole level of whatever is happening online in terms of pornography and abuse and all that. situation. But yeah, I kind of, after that experience and working for that website, I kind of became a bit more, yeah, I'm kind of a bit more careful what I'm putting online, because yeah, it's just whether they are, teaching the AI and all that kind of things, where even now you see in sort of dating world, people very happily starting to date, AI instead of real people. Is like, where is all that going, and what does that mean to human relationship, and how many people sort of spend their time online digitally years looking for somebody, when the love of their life is their neighbor and they never said hello to that person. So it's like, we can go and explore all of those things, but yeah, as a piece of advice, I think, and I'm probably gonna do like a video about it, it's like, be very careful what you put out there, because I'm telling you, they are storing all of it. Absolutely all of it. And all those things, it's kind of, I don't know where it's going to come back to you at some point, but that just means they know even, like, what your sexual preferences are better than yourself, basically. And they can exploit it. And how easy it is to manipulate people, just get them emotional for one reason or another, and you're on. So yeah, maybe next time I get some picture like that, I can say to the guy that, okay, one more for my file, like just storing all of them, and whatever, I'm gonna expose them. Or I don't know how these people would actually behave if like expose the real thing that they send you, because
I think that if they are sending you stuff and you guys aren't like close, that they probably wouldn't mind that. They probably think that it's great and they they have something to show the world. So I'm sure a lot of them wouldn't mind if you expose that,
so it's like those guys in the bushes, with the coat.
Yes. Finally the world can see what I have to offer.
All my glory.
My big break.
Yeah. No, it's kind of I think I like when people put up and there is this lady that also works with helping men to quit porn and all that kind of world of addiction, and she does it sometimes. She posts these sort of comments or whatever she gets from people who basically slamming her, and it's like, oh, you're saying that porn is like damaging your brain, like, how have you been, did you grow up with Amish people or whatever, like, and just going on and going on was like terrible thing. And she does it once in a while. She actually puts a post with a screenshot of that and just say, well, it's fascinating how many people like go at that length of protecting and sort of preserving their addiction. It's kind of, people who, like you say, if you want to change something, first step is awareness, but after that awareness, like, you need to take certain steps.
If you think about it, though, that addiction, it's a protector part of them. It is fulfilling a need or a void in them that is necessary, that they're lacking. So that is a very important part of them. And some people, they can't give that up. They don't want to. It's a threat.
Yeah, and like I said, just attacking somebody, a therapist who is actually helping people who want to get rid of that addiction. is just like attacking her and saying like, oh, you know, what the hell are you doing? Let everybody enjoy it. And like, oh, okay. So these are areas, you know, that are interesting to explore, but I always very in huge admiration of people who choose to go there and choose to work with these sort of sometimes extreme things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we spoke yesterday a little bit with Iris about this other colleague. And yeah, it's just, I would never, no, never say never, but you know, things come up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
People
It's
happen.
a fascinating conversation that we're having here. And I'm so super thrilled that you all joined in. And I think it's good if we slowly wrap it up, because I think, Sabina, you have to go, don't you?
I do as well.
Oh, you do as well. Okay. It was really a pleasure that you all joined in, and it was super inspiring. I really enjoyed listening to you, and yeah.
I really liked meeting all of you.
Yes, lovely meeting you, ladies.
It was
Thank you. So nice to, you know, yeah, building the sisterhood, whether it's online or not, you know,
Yes.
it's so important these days.
Yeah, and bringing things to awareness, because I really think a lot of women feel the same, a lot of men feel the same. I think we touched a lot of things today.
You have so many similar stories, and brilliant.
All in all, it's the most important part, I think, is that we see each other as human beings, and after that, our bodies.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not
Let's
the
leave
way
it on
around.
that. Beautiful.
Yeah, great point. Love that. Okay, so yeah, it was such a pleasure. And maybe have a chat once again.
I'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
So much.